Neil Hampton from Royal Dornoch, General Manager, Secretary. What's the role these days?
I'm a General Manager. When the job was advertised in 2010, it was previously a manager / secretary, but the club then wanted to turn very much into a more business focus about how they ran the golf club. And so they advertised for a general manager. Their job description was to manage the business and to maximise, not just maximise the business cash-wise, to maximise the business experience-wise. We want to get Royal Dornoch to be top of the tree in all facets, not just where the course is in the rankings, but where it's in customer service, where it's in staff, where it is in all these areas. And that's why they wanted a general manager, a professional in the industry.
So just going back to where you got to in this journey, I think it was probably 25 years since I first met you. It might have been the Highland Golf Classic, the first one. I think that could be right. I couldn't actually remember, but your journey, pro golfer all the way through. How did you come to Dornoch?
Yeah. Well, we'll start there. I'm not a pro golfer. I was a very, very happy amateur that played in a lot of big events. So I was a reasonably good amateur, but my parents were in the game. My dad was the last man in Scotland who was both a professional and the greenkeeper at the same time. So mum would be in the shop Monday to Friday. Dad would be looking after the course. Dad would go in the shop at weekends or give lessons at night. And one job when they were in Dornoch, they actually ran the bar as well. So I've been immersed in the game for the whole of my life, and wanted to play a bit, so got a job with local council so I could play golf, work Monday to Friday and play golf evenings, weekends. And then as my desires kind of faded and waned, and that realizing I wasn't going to be a pro golfer, then I looked at other avenues. It was back in the mid-90s that the Highland Regional Council, as it was then, got in tow with understanding what golf brought to their area. So back then they wrote the Highland Golf Tourism Development Strategy. Yeah. And so that was put together in '96, and part of that was to appoint a full-time golf development officer. And so that post was advertised in early '99, and so I applied for it and I got it. So I was the first ever golf development officer in Scotland. So there's money came from Europe, money came from the Scottish Government, money came from, might even been Visit Scotland maybe, but certainly the Highland Council backed it up. And so I did it for 2 years. At that point, I did it for 2 years because at that point I'd also sideways moved into golf administration. I was, going to the local driving range, we just built a golf course. The guy that ran it, I got to know pretty well because I was there all the time. And then he said, "Oh, my kind of part-time secretary's left. You know a bit about golf. Can you help me out for a wee while?" So just at the point I became the golf tourism officer, golf development officer, I became a part-time golf club secretary. And so after 2 years of doing both, I said, "Look, I'm just, doing 100 hours a week. I can't do both." And I was about to pack in the golf secretary thing. When he gave me an offer, I thought, well, that's a very, very good offer. I know where he's going with this, and I'm not sure how long the golf tourism thing will go with public funding. So I went down that route of becoming the full-time manager of his facility. A chap called Fraser Cromarty, he took over my role and did it, I think, for the next 5 or 6 years. And then when he left to go to Castle Stewart, that's when it fell away, and Golf Highland, as the business was called, stopped. And so golf tourism development in the Highlands then faded away. But by that time, it had grown pretty big. The various other businesses, not just golf clubs, were involved. Transport providers, hotels, restaurants had all bought into the Golf Highland theory, and we were doing great stuff in that area.
At that time, there was probably a sense that Golf Highland or golf in the Highlands was on the ascendancy with the new golf courses coming through. Royal Dornoch was obviously increasing in prominence through the activity that it had done with overseas membership, with awareness of inbound markets. But there seemed to be this upward trend in Golf Highland. Would you say that was an outcome of the regional golf strategy?
Oh yeah, definitely it worked. The strategy put together focused on and identified the reasons why golf was important to the Highlands, that what the tourism people brought in, what it did for the growth of golf clubs was very important, and it did work. And I think when you read the strategy now, a lot of the stuff they wrote back, 30 years ago is still relevant to what we should be doing today. And to your point, I think it spawned other regional groups. I think Visit Scotland bought into it, saying we need a regional golf group in every area, and there was an Ayrshire group, there was a Perth group, there was an Aberdeen group. There was all these groups sprang up because there was a bit of money going about. But as we know, in the current climate, money is not available, so these things dry up.
I've got a whole catalogue of folders with strategies from across Scotland, regional and national. And the thing that strikes me when you pull them out is that they are as relevant now, 30 years on, as they were before. Is there is golf more cyclical, or is it just that tourism is more cyclical, that the ups and downs are just inevitable and that we're following the same patterns, and that while technology might be changing, the need for collaboration and working together will always remain?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's not, nothing ever changes. You know, it all stays the same. It just looks different, but it is the same behind the scenes. We're fortunate that, you know, John Sutherland was our secretary at the golf club here for 58 years. And he used to write little articles for the London Daily News for 6 years. All these articles were taken and put into a book. So there are hundreds of pages of his 200-word articles. You start reading them, and from 150 years ago, it's still relevant what he said about greenkeeping, about golf club technology, about tourism. All the things he said then are still relevant now. So it's just packaged and perceived in a different way. And because technology and social media and internet all has changed some dynamics, but the basic core is still the same.
The outline and aims of the group, the Golf Highland website states the aim of Golf Highland is not to advocate particular golf courses or compare their merits, but to provide a convenient online hub for golf enthusiasts keen to explore the Highlands' great golfing venues, some well-known, some more obscure, but just exciting and compelling. That probably sums up what I guess you're trying to do. But in terms of how you do that, and what there are nuances obviously behind the scenes, what are secondary objectives, could you expand maybe on things like core marketing activities, sharing best practice, communications between partners, shared information, and you mentioned digital and social media. How should golf groups, given budget restraints, move forward as you see it?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. When we restarted Golf Highland in 2016, that the enthusiasm was there and it's still there. But the basic core then was we must make sure that the Highlands are promoted around the world in some way, that golf in the Highlands is, as you said, some big names, some small names, some obscure, you know, some 9-hole courses, 18-hole courses, some 36-hole complexes. There's something for everyone if you want to play golf in the Highlands, whether you're a crack golfer or you're a mere beginner, or you're there for the views or there for the food. Golf can be core to what your time is. So we concentrate on just making sure the awareness of the diversity was there. Not what else you could do, but just make sure that the 30-odd golf clubs we have as members, their name was in rotation or in turn or whenever their story was put out there. So nobody felt that Dornoch was getting more than Dornoch was getting, or Isle's Sky was missed out because it's too far away. Everybody had their chance, and we had people on the board, the initial board, from all different parts of the area. So everybody had a chance to put their thought in. And so we've grown that from 2016 to saying, right, there's maybe bits missing in Scottish Golf or Visit Scotland. We're going to go into best practice. We're going to try and help people understand how to run their business better, not just be a marketing vehicle, but saying, well, it's not just about marketing. It's maybe about helping you understand budgeting. It's about helping you understand your social media, helping you understand your personnel. You know, how can you get the best out of the few people that you have? And so we've done lots of workshops over the last 2 years to talk through that. And enthusiasm when you get people in the room, because, you know, we're talking on screen, but you can't be at a face-to-face meeting. Is really very tangible and very exciting when so-and-so lives 20 miles away, hasn't spoken to his colleague about his golf club for the last 20 years. And suddenly they're in the room saying, well, our problems are the same. But we know this is it. But we've concentrated on the golf side of things to make sure that it's golf that's promoted and that people understand that golf, a small 4-letter word, is a huge thing for us. And everybody understands that.
I think that probably that then it moves into the next question, which is always the challenging when we're trying to set this up, and that there's, as you say, there's a diversity of golf courses in terms of size, revenue, visitor numbers, membership, everything else that goes with it. Dornoch is clearly the hook, the marketing hook in the group, and obviously in Ayrshire there's 3 Open Championship courses, and then there's secondary level and there's tertiary level, and there's courses ranked all over the place. Does your involvement in the golf group then have objectives, benefit the objectives of all of the other golf courses below without you actually taking too much from it?
Yeah, I think we are here. And golf is a big business. I've said this a lot. Golf's a big business, but a very small industry. So we all must work together to grow what the business is. You know, and Dornoch has a certain thing it wants to do and to create, and other clubs have a certain thing they need to do and want to do to create. But together, we can make it all happen. And it's very important on us, and you mentioned 3 open courses, that they must take part in this to make sure that they are not just seen to be helping, but they will get something out of it. And people will view the fact that Dornoch's involved with Golf Highland as a good thing, and Dornoch are doing their bit, so I will visit Dornoch as well. because they're seen to be helping everybody else. And we're not just helping. Our name does provide stuff, but we actively take part in the board. I'm chairman of Golf Highland. I sit in every meeting and we make sure that we're putting our oar in to say, right, we know that works for us. Will it work for you? You want to do that? Well, I don't know about that, but let's stress test it. So we're a very active part of what the Golf Highland board is. And I think that's important to be seen to be doing it, but also be seen to be inputting into it.
That moves it directly onto the next one. And you mentioned that your involvement was chair. How is Golf Highland currently structured? Is Golf Highland a membership organisation, for instance?
Yeah, well, we always started off that we were never going to get any funding from anybody. At the very beginning in 2016, Highland Council gave us £4,000 to kickstart things. They've never been back for anything else. We've never asked for anything else because we know there's no money about. So we realised that we're going to have to self-fund. There's not even any match funding for anything now, and we've never achieved any of that. We did, I think, get some money from the old COVID grants when people were saying, "Have you lost income?" Yes, we have. But that's a by the way. So yes. We have a membership structure, and to be fair, Ian, we haven't changed the amount we've charged since we started. A small club is £150, a medium-sized club is £300, and a big club like Dornoch is £500. And that just goes by your membership list, how many people you have as a member. That's how we do it. And we are going to, I think this year's account showed we took in £9,000 this year. And that's the only money we have. Yeah. And then we set up a budget to try and spend most of it on the initiatives we have. Mostly it's marketing. But again, we're setting up workshops. We're giving out some grants for specific things. For example, the James Braid Trail in the Highlands wanted to do some marketing specific to them. So we gave them some money to help kickstart that. So there's lots of little things that we can do as a board now to think we're a reasonably well established, and I'd like to think reasonably well respected amongst the clubs that are our members, so they can come to us for help, and we can also go out there and promote what they're doing.
So I would be fair to say that you're focusing very much on core activities and manageable.
Very much. We are a volunteer board. There is nobody paid to do anything for Golf Highland. Yeah, not the board wise. We have a social media consultant, so we pay him a small fee every month to go and do our social media. We have a PR guy, so we need stories written. We'll pay them when required. But nobody's here working full-time, part-time on a paid basis to do Golf Highland, as it were. So we're very much concentrating on what we're good at. The previous Golf Highland, like I said, up until 2007, had grown many arms and legs. And that was very difficult to manage. And I didn't envy Fraser at that point, having to keep so many stakeholders happy. And I think that's the difficulty that you have when you grow. And that's why we've talked about accommodation partners. And we're really not ready for that because we're not big enough, we're not strong enough in managing that. We may well want to take some money to advertise them, but certainly we don't want them really influencing, because I think we've got to be pure to what golf is in the Highlands and what we want our golf clubs to get from it.
That's interesting, because one of the questions that I know that's been put around is what is the role of affiliates or collaborative partnerships or other standards of memberships. Yeah. So that's not something that Golf Highland are looking at short term, medium term, or just really focusing on the golf course membership.
Absolutely. We're volunteering. I keep saying this about our council management. The golf club, you're a volunteer, leave it to the professional staff, me, to run the business. We don't have any full-time staff to run it. Otherwise, we would maybe look at that. We want to concentrate and spend the time that we have, the hour or so every month for a board meeting, and the 3 or 4 hours in between time with the work we've done, to be focused and productive. If we start having to have other strands, then we'll get diluted, and people don't have time for that, and they don't want to be diluted just yet.
In terms of beyond the region and even within the region, I think from what you're saying that you're very much focused on the core, and maybe I know the answer to this question because you probably answered much of it. But how does Golf Highland fit into current national and other regional tourism initiatives? And I think in terms of the list that I've been looking at, for instance, Visit Scotland was previously heavily involved with regional golf, maybe less so now. You've got the Scottish Development Group, you've got Scotland Where Golf Began, and then other, in the Highlands, other non-golf specific initiatives such as Highland Tourism or even Scottish Tourism Forum. Do you liaise with other groups? Do you provide information? Do you communicate? What sort of external communications will you have beyond Golf Highland?
Very little on a purposeful basis, but because I sit on the chair, I'm the chair at the moment of the Scottish Golf Tourism Development Group, which is kind of not doing much at the moment. We've got Scotland Where Golf Began, the marketing kind of section. I'm involved in that. to me, that's a very important role that I play is that connection. But Golf Highland itself hasn't set a stall to say we must be involved with these groups. Because, like I said before, we only have a small group of volunteers. We've got to concentrate on what we can do. I will, because I have the time. Well, I don't really have the time, but, but I have the wherewithal because I'm a paid employee here. And I see my role within Dornoch, not just as looking after Dornoch Golf Club, but trying to look after golf itself. So I get involved in all these groups because Dornoch is a big player nationally as well as locally. So I think Dornoch needs to be seen to be involved, to share the message and get on board with all these other agencies, and to make sure that the name of golf is out there. I think we're well respected as a golf club, so it sees my role as to be involved and to be seen to be at these things.
Okay. In terms of product development, you mentioned that you might fund or support market other things, and one of the things that I always recall being involved in the golf groups is that golf groups tended to get too heavily involved sometimes, and that they were actually creating product rather than actually just just facilitating the ability for other people's product to be promoted. Now, I'm trying not to put this as a statement and not a question, but where we are in the current marketplace, what role does Golf Highland have in developing product from the golf courses rather than to the golf courses, if that makes sense?
Yeah, we're trying hard to make sure we don't get too involved in running somebody's golf club. What we've said is we are part of your marketing strategy. We are not your whole marketing strategy. We will make sure it's promoted, but it's up to you then to convert that inquiry into a piece of business. What we are dipping our toe in the water now is the workshops that we're running to help you understand what conversion means. How do you interact? What is the email you send? How does, when somebody gets in touch, what's the best way to respond? Trying to give them tips and tricks for that. We're not going out to every golf club and giving them tutorials and lectures. We're getting them in a room saying the best way to respond is this. Make sure it's within 24 hours. Make sure it's a positive yes, I can do. You know, if you've got an online payment facility, that's great. Make sure you get the money up front. It's trying to make sure that they are fulfilling what we've promised to the customer, but without us getting too deep into it. We're not a training scheme. We're not a training provider. We're not a quality assurance company. We're none of these things. We're just trying to nudge you along the way to say, look, if you want to do it better, here's some ideas.
Directly from that, and I suppose it links into what you said at the very beginning, that it was great to actually get people who are 20 miles apart talking to each other. That in itself must be able to provide at least a catalyst for product development, for new golf passes, for interactions between hotels, between golf courses, between anybody else. Is that still something that a regional golf group can create, that can create new collaborations that weren't there before?
Yes, well, very much. I think we can create the connections, and we will help advise the connections on how best to work together and what product to put out. But we will not be leading on it. And I say I'm very conscious that we are not seen to be doing it for you, but we're seen to be helping provide the underlying support. And it's something that I'm conscious of. My previous incarnations in Golf Highland is I'm the doer, and people sit back and let you do it. We're not going to do that. We'll push you along the road. It's your golf club. If you want it better, you've got to do something.
In terms of internal or communications coming into Golf Highland, I know that again with the involvement in the history of projects in the past in Ayrshire and Fife and obviously in the Highlands, there was always a sense that there was maybe three different segments. There was the direct market where the golfer was buying direct. There was then possible that the hotel and the local trade were actually trying to liaise to buy product that they could then move on to their own customers and add value, maybe not necessarily monetary, but they would add value by booking tee times on behalf of clients. And then there was the travel trade. So direct, hotel provider, travel trade. Do you have a mix of target audience that Golf Highland is looking at? Is it hitting one segment more than another, or is it just very general?
It is very general. We're a signposting organisation to point you at the golf club, and whether you're an independent traveller, whether you're a hotel or you're a tour operator, we'll point you at a golf club. It's up for you to make that connection, and for the golf club to come back to you and say, right, thanks for getting in touch, Mr. Hotel or Mr. Tour Operator. This is how we work, and we will support the club by providing them with information. If a tour operator gets in touch, what should I do? Well, you should have this list of rates and the net rates, and this is how they contact. That's what you should have in place for when it happens. Yes. But we're not going to facilitate. You won't find anything on our website, contact Golf Highland. And that's something that we're very, very clear on. It's you have to deal with a customer. We'll push customers your way, but you've got to take on board that and then work with it.
Yes. So in short, you're looking at taking the information, professionalizing the information from the clubs that may have a less experience of digital marketing, creating the distribution channel, and then putting it out to market. And the communication channels are direct with the golf clubs rather than through Golf Highland. They will just skip you completely and push towards the direct channel.
Absolutely. For an example, our next workshop, which is Friday the 25th of October, we're going to hold it in Speyside, because Speyside is our underperforming area. And when we did our stats, we do yearly stats on green fee revenues and the like, and it's our underperforming area. So we're going to hold a workshop in the area to talk about marketing, digital, brand, budgeting, to talk about that, get them in the room so they can listen to us, ask questions of us, hopefully learn a bit, we can learn from them. But again, get them to speak to each other. Should there be a Speyside golf pass? Should all the 9-hole courses in that area provide a ticket? Let's explore the conversation, but we will step away and they have to follow on after that.
The future of Scottish golf. I think we've been in this long enough, and we've been through, as we mentioned, that we have seen the cyclical nature of golf, rising, falling, rising again, falling again. And I fear sometimes that we don't seem to learn the lessons, and that when we hit a peak, we seem to not actually foresee that there may be a trough ahead. Given the public nature of some of the statements that have been coming out from a couple of golf courses on the East Coast recently, and perhaps the over-egging of how well positioned Scottish golf is at the moment, are there worries for the future? Should we be concerned at certain levels about revenues at certain stages in the process?
Yeah, we should always be concerned. I mean, you're not doing your business properly unless you're analysing it to say what's the worst case what could go wrong. When COVID proved to us what could go wrong, golf bounced back because we had to go outside and we had to exercise. So golf benefited from that. But what else could go wrong? Another Twin Towers, an ash cloud or something. So what are we doing about that? This is when, marketing's always quite simple. You've got to keep doing it. And especially when you're at the top of the tree, you've got to shout about why we're at the top of the tree to keep people coming. People will say to me, but Dornoch doing so well, why are you going to the PGA show again? Well, if I don't go, people will forget about Dornoch. Maybe not next year or the year after, but in 3 years' time, we've gone somewhere else because I wasn't there to remind them how good Dornoch is. And that's what we need to do. Golf Highland will always keep promoting what happens, even though every club is bursting at the seam. You cannot stop doing that. And it's important that clubs recognise that their presence is important, no matter how good they're doing, because sometimes it will go downhill. And there's no doubt, Ian, we talked about cyclical earlier golf will go downhill at some point. How far down the hill we don't know, so we have to arrest that decline before it happens.
I had the leading question coming up, and you've just answered it, Neil, and that was that does the regional golf structure have a role to play in preventing those downturns? Yeah,
the regional structure for me is the way forward, because Visit Scotland can't do it, Scottish Golf can't do it. Both of these agencies will try, but they're too national. We understand what happens in the Highlands. I've played all the golf courses. I know the people. I know what they, the wrong thing to say. I don't know what they need. I'd like to help them find out what they need. And then if I can do that, I can help provide the answers. And me being Golf Highland Board, not me as Neil Hampton. And I think I would love to see more regional groups get together in the format we have, because you've got a vested interest because you're not getting paid for it. But your golf club's going to benefit from it. And I'm not saying that paid employees are wrong, but they have a slightly different mindset. To where if I'm giving up my personal time to make this happen, I want the best result in the quickest time and the most efficient way. So I'd love a network of regional golf groups along the Golf Highland model, because I think we could work really well together and be a powerful voice. I don't think we need to have a body, a regional golf group's body, but a wee chat every 6 months would be really good.
Yeah. So in closing, and this presentation is going out to a room of people in the golf sector. What would be your proposal? What would be your recommendation for golf in Ayrshire, and what the aims and objectives should be for 2025? First off.
Well, I highly recommend that you get together and form an Ayrshire golf group again and keep it pure. It's the golf clubs and courses themselves that know what they need. When you start bringing extra people, they'll have a slightly different take on it. Make sure you get get people together around the room to say, we want to go golf in Ayrshire. That's what we did first of all. Do you want to be better? Yes, we do. Do you want more members? Yes. Do you want more visitors? Yes. Right then, we can do that together. Get around the room, get a bunch of enthusiastic people who will volunteer for it and not see it as a pain on their life or an extra on their time. I mean, I've been doing this for the last 8 years now. I still get quite thrilled by it because of my upbringing. You know, for me, golf in Scotland's for everyone. And every course is there to be played. My dad said to me, it's not ours to keep, son, it's ours to share. And my ethos in that is doing that. But I think you need to keep it small and compact, i.e. a board of 6 or 7 people, have as many golf clubs in it to begin with, grow that. And if you get the enthusiasm, it's great. I'll tell you, we've got 32 member clubs, but we only get responses from about half of them. But the other half always pay their fees. So they all still get the value. And we need just to, and that's why the workshops go around different places, Ian. So it's easier for the volunteers at these smaller clubs to come along. So I think there's a great opportunity for us to grow golf from the industry bottom up. You know, we sometimes rely too much on the government and the agencies helping us. That's disappeared now. That's not going to happen. We know what we need. We know what we've got, and we should understand how to get out there.
Neil, as I said at the beginning, it's maybe been 10 years since I've spoken to you like this, and I really do hope that it's not going to be another decade before that happens. I think this has been really enlightening. I think we've covered all of the areas in a shorter period of time because of your succinctness and your knowledge and understanding. Can I thank you on behalf of everybody that's in this room today for your time, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the near future. Thanks very much, Neil.
It's been a great pleasure. I really wish you all the success.